Daddy butter bought some butter.
We're finally back! Devlogs are back! So what's new? Well, quite a bit, and we will get into that. But first off, I've graduated. I am officially a computer scientist. So now there's no more school in the way of trying to work on Starground. Only the eternal rat race of trying to make enough money to financially support yourself in hopes that you don't end up dead or homeless. But hopefully this means I can focus on Starground just a little bit more now. I still have been working away hard at the game during this whole time, and I can safely say that there's more progress to show off in this devlog than probably all of the others combined. It's a lot. So strap in as I show off what's new. We're gonna break it up into the classic, first talking about automation stuff, then we're gonna go to the dungeoning, and then other miscellaneous stuff. Automation. So the last thing I've shown off for automation is, I think, the introduction to the crafter building, and let's just say things have progressed quite a bit since then. We've got all this new shiny crafting UI with categories over here on the left, a current recipe name indicator right here, and a load of new crafting recipes. A lot of these are products for research or other future stuff, but we've got wires and processors now, and both of those go into some new advanced buildings that I've also added. You can also craft some weapons, now including the sword blade and the bomb, which I will get into later. Next up, which has been a huge change since the last devlog, is the whole power system. Now a bunch of buildings in the game require power to work. The way to transmit this power is through the use of the Tesla coil, which basically acts as like a power pole and a power distributor in one little building. One complete little package. Put a bow on there. Basically, any buildings in range of this power pole will be powered and connected to the power grid. The problem, though, is that since buildings like the crafter, the collector, and the shredder all need power now, we need a way to actually make power. One building that was in the game for a while but never really actually had a use was the burner. This, finally, is functional. Basically, the burner lets you burn fuel and it generates power in return. Basically a pretty decent early game power source. I also found in testing though that early game setting up a whole burner system is kind of too hard. So I also added the treadmill, which is basically sort of your first power source. And this lets you run on it to generate electricity. Obviously not the best power source since you're stuck on the treadmill when you're making power, but it's cheap and quick to set up really early on. I also added batteries in the game since power can be a little bit unreliable early on, and having batteries to balance that out is really great. Also, solar panels. Solar panels are in the game, and since they only turn on during the day, well, you kind of need batteries, otherwise they're pretty pointless. I also added this big battery, which uses a new resource that I added. Steel. I might have mentioned steel before, but basically it's just a new intermediate building material above stuff like iron and stone brick. Right now it's used in the more advanced stuff like the new solar panel building. The vault, which holds basically just big stacks of items, and the previously aforementioned big battery. So you might be wondering, how do I make this so-called steel? Well, the answer is yet another building called the foundry. This is basically sort of like an advanced furnace, which takes in multiple inputs in order to make alloys. Right now, this just makes steel, which is combining both iron ingots and coal. But in the future, we could explore all sorts of other advanced alloys and recipes. But other than that, it just works basically like a furnace. It takes in fuel, smelts them together, and creates some metal. I've also added an entire research system. Yeah, I told you, I've been kind of grinding away at stuff. So now you can research all sorts of different technologies to unlock new things and make your factory the best it can be. Of course, we need a way to actually research, so that's where the new researcher comes in. This building's pretty straightforward, but basically you just put the right input ingredient into it, power it, and then you're good. These can be a little slow for a lot of bigger researches, so usually it's good to have at least a few. Whew. But yeah, that's a rundown of all the major automation stuff. Quite a few new things to explore, so that's always great. The rest of the automation stuff is really just small changes, you know, like small changes to the splitter, chests having labels now. Not super important to go through since they're more quality of life, but they are there. Now it's finally time to move on to dungeoning, the second sort of column of this whole game. This hasn't seen quite as massive of a load of new content, but there has been some really good balancing changes and just overall visual upgrades to everything. First off, starting at the whole source of the whole dungeoning thing, the tool bench. This has gotten a big rework to the UI, so it's just now smaller and easier to understand, honestly. But this is something that was really needed to be done since it was too big and messed with the UI when you did the big UI scale, so yeah. You might have also noticed all these little slots down here at the bottom. It might be a little weird that they're empty, but what these slots are actually used for is for putting items into them. So you can put any item down here you want, but they're really used for consumable items, which we're going to get into right now. The first of the consumable items is the bomb. It's a bomb. I mean, it does pretty much what you expect. Yeah, it blows things up. It's great at destroying resources. It's good at killing enemies. Really, the biggest reason I added it is because of those resource rooms where it has a bunch of stuff in the room and it takes forever to break it. So that's what the bombs are really for. But these slots will eventually be used for food and other consumable items in the future. Some stuff like farming and potions. I'm not going to get into that now, but you will see that come in a future devlog. And lastly, on the UI side of stuff, I've reworked the health UI. Makes a little bit more sense now. Now it shows like a heart and they changed blue to red just because that's just what makes the most intuitive sense. The day counter's been moved down here into this little tiny other section, so you can still see what day you're on. But now health looks more like health. Dungeons themselves have gotten expanded out a little bit too. One thing is the introduction of coins. While these don't do anything in this current devlog I'm filming right now, they definitely will soon. I have plans for a few things that use these. One of such things is the trading hub or the space hub, which is going to have a bunch of different traders that you can actually use these coins for. You can also notice all these little decorations around the rooms, and these actually drop stuff. These sometimes drop hearts and usually more commonly coins. Enemies also finally don't just disappear. They leave a corpse behind, and they also make a little death noise too. These corpses actually stay in the dungeon until you leave, so you can kind of go back through and look at all the destruction you caused. But this new stuff applies to all the enemies, so the moon shrooms, the automatons, and Dreadcat. So they all have death noises and corpses that show up. And on the topic of Dreadcap, I have been working away at him a little bit more, just mainly refining his attacks and balancing him a little bit better. He also drops his little trophy now, which is epic. You can either just hold this as an item, but you can also use it to build a monument in the automation area. Other than that, dungeoning has mainly just been balancing all the weapons and stuff like that. I think the next big thing for the dungeon is introducing elemental and physical weapon attacks and types. So for example, some weapons will have effects like piercing, slashing, blunt damage, etc. And likewise, enemies will have strengths and weaknesses to all those different types of attacks. And this is sort of like the list of everything I have planned out right now, with these 4 being the enemy types and then these 3 being attack types. So these different enemy groups will have inherent weaknesses and strengths to all these, and eventually we'll probably add elemental effects, sort of like fire or maybe poison. Let me know in the comments if you have any ideas for that. That's mainly everything for the dungeoning stuff. It is now on to some of the more miscellaneous stuff, but still definitely important stuff. First off, the main island has gotten some minor upgrades. This includes new decoration tiles, like all these better water tiles over here, and little butterflies that go around now. So it feels a bit more alive and less void-like, less back rooms. You know what I mean? I've also got another massive feature finally implemented, and that is Steam multiplayer. Or you would have to go through the whole port forwarding process, and if you've ever played Minecraft, you know how that tends to go. But now it's as easy as hosting a game, inviting your friend through the overlay, or them just joining you. Pretty easy stuff. No port forwarding. Yeah, good. It also just made the networking run way better, which I wasn't really expecting, but nice side effect, I guess. Took me forever to get it all working reliably, but I think it's pretty solid now. There's only a few weird connection problems that I'm working out, but hopefully I can get that done. But yeah, that's where we're at. I know, an absolute ton of stuff I just threw at you, but feel free to go back through the video and take some more time to understand what I just said. But yeah, TLDR, more stuff, more content, better game. I'm not going to bore you with more talking since we've already gone over a million things this devlog, so that's going to be it. But first, a few really important things to note. First off, a trailer and a demo for the game are coming really soon. Steam Next Fest is something that I entered the game into, which is on June 10th. I hope I can say that date. I hope I'm not in trouble. We'll see about that. So I have to get both the demo and the trailer already before then. So be sure on the lookout for that. I'll probably upload the trailer here on the channel. And be sure to join the Discord if you want to get notified for stuff like this, including streams and just regular progress updates. As always, big thanks to our Ko-fi member, Ben Newman. I appreciate it. And thank you!